And it's live.
Hey.
Hello.
Only 2 minutes late.
Yeah. Only 2 minutes. So yeah, welcome to the Shatter live discussion. For those of you that have read the book. Obviously you know myself because I am hosting, but if you want to go and say your channels or where you're from or like, you know, what you like to read, a little bit of an introduction. Who wants to go first? Or shall we start with Sunny?
Yeah.
Either way.
Hi, I'm Sunny. I started off with BookTube, but I decided to officially not do BookTube anymore. I'm more active on Book Talk and on Bookstagram. Yeah. And I know Katie for like a very long time now. So hi. I've been here before. You better remember me.
Well, I have a channel called Yarn Reader on YouTube. I'm somewhat on Book Talk, not too much, but I've been on YouTube for a few years. I mostly did crafting, like sit-down podcasts, but I only got into BookTube, I think last year is really when I got into it. So.
And I'm Hope from It's Hope Books. Obviously make book content. I always feel awkward with introductions. I've been doing BookTube it'll be 2 years on Monday, which is crazy to believe, and I'm very excited to be here.
Woo. Happy BookTube birthday for them. And we have someone in the comments. Hello.
Hello.
Hey.
Hello. Thank you for joining. Cool. Where are my notes? All right. So, okay. So now we talk about what we thought about the book in general, likes, dislikes, and all that. Yeah. So this was a reread for me. So it's strange to go for it because I literally remembered nothing. The only thing that I remembered was that Juliet had this power that about touching people is quite lethal. And I remember her being locked away. And I remember Adam and remember Warner, but I didn't remember much else because it'd been a few years. And as I was reading it, I was sort of like, okay, some of it's kind of coming back to me, but some of it was kind of like new, which was really strange too. And then it was interesting to see because there were some parts that where before I really, really enjoyed the book, but this time around I was just like, oh, that's a little bit insta-lovey, a little bit cheesy. So yeah, it was kind of interesting to feel that, and I'm just sort of like, I wonder if my view's going to change like in the next book or something. But yeah, so like some bits I was a bit like, yeah, I remember like absolutely loving this first time round, but then this time I'm just sort of like, what? They love each other? Like, what? So yeah, yeah, just the second time round, just it's interesting how my views are different. But yeah,
I felt kind of indifferent to it, honestly. So it just kind of felt like the same old dystopian type of story, except for like with superpowers. But I wouldn't say it was bad. It just I didn't really feel really strong feelings about it either way. So
yeah, it gave me a lot of Darkest Minds vibes, which I think came around the same time. I think Darkest Minds was a year afterwards, but they have very similar vibes, and I adored Darkest Minds. So in this moment, it was like, it's so weird, and then it felt like so insta-lovey, and it was like, I'm not 100% sure if I'm gonna vibe with this book. I think I said in the chat several times that I'm kind of having a hard time going through with the book and having motivation to actually pick out the audiobook, which normally for audiobooks that's not the case with me. So yeah, I finished it.
I know that I loved it when I read it when it was July of 2020 was when I read it. I didn't get to do a reread because I kind of joined the live like 3 days ago, so didn't have time to read it. But I remember loving it. I think I gave it like a 5-star. Mainly, I think it was because I hadn't read much like it. And now I do think that upon a reread, I might lower that rating down to like a 4 or something. Because yeah, it is very like insta-love, which back a year and a half ago, I loved those kind of books. So like if I would have done a reread, it would have changed, but I just didn't have the time.
Yeah, I think like the more like dystopian books you read, the more you sort of, because right at the time when Shatter came out and The Darkest Minds, dystopian was that topic that everyone was writing, reading, and all of that. So like Hunger Games and all of that too. So there was a lot of like everyone's reading dystopian. Some things are like really similar, some things are like different. So it's a bit like, so yeah, like that's where that.
And I like haven't even till today read that many dystopian. I think it's literally just been the books that you've mentioned are The Hunger Games, The Darkest Minds, and then the Shatter Me series are like, to my knowledge, most of the dystopians that I've read. So like, versus people that have read a bunch of dystopians and all that, obviously their opinion, they'd have stronger opinions about the genre than I would.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I like dystopian is one of my actual favorite genres. I love to read about like worlds that are like completely different to our own and all of that. Like I still even really enjoy it now. Like I kind of really like the writing style as well, like of this book, like because it flows quite easily and the chapters are really short, so I find that I go through really quickly with it too. So I really kind of like that, and so I like her writing. But yeah, like
I like the way that she normally I don't really care for a whole lot of like diary entry kind of style of writing, but this one it made more sense to it when she was in the beginning, where a lot of the words were like stricken out. Copy that.
It was really nice. Made it really excited to hear the audiobook. It's like, what happened?
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. It really kind of got you into it.
Yeah, I really liked the strikeout bits as well. I thought that was quite cool. There was a moment where it kind of like stopped for a bit, and then it came back kind of near towards the end again.
I feel like it would have been a bit nicer if, when you go into the audiobook, you don't know what it means. So the sentence is read out, but then you hear the sound of something being crossed out. But it makes it much nicer if you actually listen to it, but have the physical book as well. To actually read what exactly is crossed out, because this way, honestly, the whole paragraph could be crossed out. It could just be a single word. It could just be, I don't know, a cross afterwards.
Yeah.
Especially at the beginning, makes it very kind of confusing. You just hear the random sound.
Yeah, you would almost think it's like an error in the audiobook or something.
Yeah, I was like, what's happening? And then there was like a long time there was nothing, and then suddenly it came back.
I just trying to imagine you sat there and just suddenly hears and then like, wait, what? Like, what was that?
I don't cause anything at what?
Like, wait, did I just hear that right? Let me go back.
I was really confused. And at the beginning it happens a lot.
Yeah. That like
it happens
literally near enough all the time.
And then for a time it doesn't happen at all, and then it suddenly comes back. So with the audio, you completely forget that sound even exists, and then suddenly it comes back.
I'll just select some comments as well. So got here, I'll probably never get around to reading it. So is it just the main character that has superpowers, or is it others too?
Yeah, the answer would be considered spoilers. I don't think we could really actually answer that one unless we want to go into a spoilery section.
Yeah.
Hello.
But she definitely has powers.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, yes.
That's what we can say.
Main character.
She has powers, and then it's like, do the others? Well, you'd have to be willing to have spoilers, because it's a huge spoiler to say yes or no.
Yeah, both would be extremely spoilery.
Yes, the main character. That's not the spoiler.
That's clear. It literally says on the cover, my touch is lethal, my touch is power. That's on the cover. That's not a spoiler.
Nice to see you though, Rosie. Thank you for joining and supporting. Hello, Alicia. Why aren't you in the video?
She said later down in the chat, I tried to join, but I was backstage, so you must not have noticed her and added her.
No.
Katie, that's so rude of you.
I saw nothing, alright?
Try again. Katie will add you.
Yeah, wait, have you got the link, Alicia? Or do I need to add it? Put the link in the chat again? Let me. Oh, Meg.
She's like just shouting to the void, "Hello!"
Now is not the time, Nutmeg.
Hello.
Thanks for the support, by the way.
I mean, that's the StreamYard link, but I join again. I swear I did see something flash at the bottom, but then it flashed off again. And I was a bit sort of like, wait, did I just see that? Like, bit like with your rip. But yes, thank you for your support. Why aren't you in the live? I'm okay with spoilers. I tried to join, but I was... Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
Hello!
Wherever my hand is. I'm in the kitchen at the moment.
Well, welcome anyway. Do you want to like quickly introduce yourself when you're ready?
Introduce myself?
Yeah. We've done a little introduction at the beginning. I don't know if you want to just say something a little about yourself, your channel, all that. You're on the spot.
Oh my gosh. Let me escape to the library. Gosh. Okay. Hopefully it'll be a little quieter in here.
Now's your time to shine.
Yeah, right. So I am Books and Things with Alicia. As you can see, my library behind me, and I read Shatter Me. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars.
Nice.
But I just enjoyed it.
Do you want to say like what you liked and didn't like? Because that's kind of what we were going through, like just before you joined. Like, just briefly, what you liked and didn't like.
I'm trying to figure out this whole camera angle thing. I enjoyed it overall. I didn't like the beginning. The whole she's in the cell part. I felt like that whole entire thing could have been left out. But at the same time, it does feed into the rest of the story. So, and I feel like I had like a X-Men vibe because everybody in the end had abilities, but they weren't mutants. So it was give and take with a lot of it, I think. I'm still a little confused on the whole story as a whole, but I think that's going to be more explained, I think, in the later books.
Yeah, I feel like when I was flicking through the end of this, like trying to remember and stuff, like I remember I don't think it wrapped up very well. I think it kind of leads into like another book, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
like,
it's very cliffhangery.
That makes sense.
My cat just now and then it's just like meow.
One of mine came in.
Have your voice soon. Come here.
All right.
Someone said cat, and Harry's like, who me? Is it my turn to shine?
It's like, show your cat's time.
This one, it never leaves my side. Like, he's always with me.
Nutmeg this morning would not, like, she would sleep on me. Like, if I was on my side, she'd be sleeping on my side, like, literally on my side. And she did that quite a few times. Even if she left to go have a little bit to eat, she always came back and laid on me. It was so strange.
I have a mocha back there.
Aww. Cool. So, what would you have liked to have been done to the book to make it better?
Back? What did I miss?
We're just talking about cats.
Yeah, we will talk about cats.
What would I do to make it different?
Maybe less of the insta-lovey bits for me. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't have to be a lot, but just like make it a little less insta love.
Yeah, because like, you know, who was it that said it first? Was it Adam or Juliet? One of them said, I think it was Adam. I have a funny feeling it was Adam.
Yeah, I think it was Adam. And then she
Yeah.
kind of been
And
like,
then she
oh, yeah, I
yeah, like,
do.
It was like,
Like,
oh
like,
yeah,
I
I
feel
guess
the
so.
same way too. And I was like, wait, didn't you just last see each other like in kind of like a school thing? Like,
when you were children.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
Like,
yeah,
it would've
That's kind
been-
of weird.
that
Yeah.
bit could have been.
Yeah, it would have been a little bit better if maybe it was like the very end of the book
Yeah.
admitting that.
Yeah.
But not like, if I remember correctly, it was like within like at least the first third almost.
Yeah, it was like she knew, like she met him, and then she was like, "I know him from somewhere." Blah blah blah. Then they kind of start talking, and then he was like, "Yeah, like I really like you. I might love you." And then she's like, "Oh yeah, me too. I think I love you too."
Well,
And it's
yeah,
like, what?
like saying the like I like you, that's okay at the beginning.
Yeah,
Because like they're teenagers, you kind of almost like
Expect them.
you get a connection with somebody and immediately are like, okay, boom, I like you. But love shouldn't have been till the end, if that, maybe even the second book. I will just say that.
I would have also liked to see a bit more of the world, because I feel like it was very the focus was very much on the people and the characters, and we didn't really see anything from the world. Like, I would have
Yeah.
loved to see what happened.
There's
Yeah.
actually
But
one of
you
the
do
things that
you do learn more. You do learn more about the world as the books go on,
And
so
it
it is
makes
kind of something that it's like you eventually find out, but you have to read on to know.
But if you expect, like, now not knowing that I would get more in the next books, the way I read it now, I'd be like, well, I wouldn't expect to get anything in the next books because I didn't really get much now. What makes sense
Yeah.
is you put some in and then gradually
Yeah.
put more
Yeah,
in.
like a little sprinkle of like even almost like just saying like you'll learn more soon.
Yeah, because now it's like suddenly they don't want words to be around, but it's like, what happened? Like, she went to school and suddenly she's in prison. Like, that makes sense. We learn stuff, but we don't learn about the world. We simply learn about Juliet.
Like,
And
like
yeah, we get like one glimpse into like the outside world, because like one of the things I actually tabbed in here, it talks about how things are kind of like windows are shattered, houses are abandoned, paint's peeling, all that stuff. So
someone to love to know how it gets to that point. Like, especially for me, liking Darkest Minds, is one of the first things we find out is how it gets to the point. And me coming from Darkest Minds, loving that book, it's kind of me not getting the same thing from Shatter. Me, it kind of, I don't know, I don't like it as much. But it's kind of that moment where you find something similar, and then of course you compare them to each other. So like that's inevitable. I feel like you'd be like, oh, I like this. Oh, this is similar. Let's compare them. So yeah, for me, it would have been a bit nicer to have a bit more world building and a bit more. I don't know, to see a bit more of what happens outside of just Juliet's world.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you with that. Like, because I feel like the world of their world wasn't touched on a lot.
Yeah.
I feel like maybe twice, maybe in the book,
but
like somewhere near the beginning.
I think that was kind of the point of building the character development of Juliet, though, because of how isolated she was in the beginning. It was mostly making you more focus on her and why she's being isolated than like what her powers and stuff are supposed to do about that, and instead of being focused on the outside world so much. At least that's what I got from it.
I mean, it totally makes sense, but also if I'd be isolated for a very long time, I would like look into the new world and just see what's the difference between the new world and the world I came from before I got isolated. And there was no looking around. She was like completely focused on herself and Adam, basically.
My love for Adam will
Definitely.
lead the way.
Yeah, I would be asking questions and like,
Yeah, I would be like, what happened?
like what's changed? Has anything changed?
Yeah.
And if so,
Mm.
how? I definitely do agree with that.
Yeah, I
They're
think she only
completely
said
trying-
like one thing when she left the building, where she was like, "Wow, this has happened since I've been here," or something like that.
I
And,
think
and then it
I
was
think
like,
they did have
"Oh,
a
I don't know."
conversation though.
They're completely trying to cancel out the written word, and she's not even asking. She's like, okay, don't do that, but she's like,
It's like,
wait, why?
yeah, it's like she just goes along with it.
No,
All right, this is how things are.
so accepting.
It's like, wow, it's different since I last was here. Adam, wait for me.
Yeah,
Right?
like not even
Right?
commenting on how things are different. Even if it would have been like, oh, that's slightly different than I
Yeah.
used to remember it as blank.
Yeah,
Even just a single line or two like that would have added a little bit.
yeah.
Mm.
Because now
I
it feels
agree.
like
I
the
agree.
whole way this way, but we know it's not. When we go get flashbacks from her, like the way she ended up in the isolation. We know what happens, and we see in that area that it had been different before, but we don't know how different it is
Yeah,
now.
she's almost acting as if
Not caring.
nothing's changed.
Yeah. And honestly, she's not even asking about like anyone she knew. Like, of course, I wouldn't ask about my parents if they did that to me, but at the same time, you'd still kind of ask.
You would think that she'd have some sort of curiosity towards what was and what is.
And what
Yeah.
happened to the people she knew.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to constantly say this, but things are later in the book. It explains some things
I know.
a little bit more. Like I hate to be constantly saying that, but it's this first
I
book
totally
is
get that.
like specifically on Juliet in the moment, what she's experiencing versus
I totally get that, but at the same time, I feel like when you get out of isolation for a very long time, there would be things that she didn't do. She was very
Yeah.
much her-based.
Like when we were all quarantined.
Isolation.
This feels a bit similar.
yeah. Like I'm not saying that
Actually,
what you're saying
looking
isn't
at what
true.
Dane
But
does. No, it's totally fine. How I would react. How I
yeah,
think
like
I have no idea.
I think any normal sane person would have that reaction. But is
Yeah,
she
it's kind of-
entirely
it's kind of
sane
like
at
these-
that point? Who knows, really? Like,
Yeah.
she is a little bit, like, mentally kind of like, she's been
That makes
isolated,
sense.
so she's not thinking that way.
It's kind of like she's still in shock. She still has to get her bearings, so to speak.
Yeah, she's still so used to being alone
Yeah.
that the idea of talking with people and asking these questions is almost a slightly foreign concept to her.
And also, she's getting into this tank.
Yeah.
Adam's just like, I left the tank here. Like,
I
Yep.
did this one.
Yeah, just so casually.
so for me, I'd be like, a tank?
I'd be like,
What?
we're taking that thing? No. Walk.
Did we completely lose all vehicles during the time I was on
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are we all driving tanks?
All right, I'll nip to the comments real quick.
We're not
Rosie said, I see a duck. Because I think you were pointing to your cat. And you were like, yeah, there's a cat there. And then Rosie's like, I see a duck. Because without the comment, the duck is where your cat
Well,
is.
sometimes she sounds like a duck, so.
My broadband has been a victim of the wind again. Oh no. Oh, I hate Insta Love.
Yeah.
Yes, I think the older I get, the more I don't like it.
Are we lost?
And we've lost this. Oh no. I saw Insta Love. Oh, gotta add you again, Alicia. Welcome back.
Technical.
You're in, you're out.
I saw Insta Love in real life the other day. I was having a chat with a 6-year-old girl, and a little boy came over and told me he had a cat too. Then went away, and the little girl goes, "Daddy, I love that boy." The dad literally went, "That's nice, dear." Oh yeah, that was not Meg. Yeah, she was being naughty. I'm just here to distract you because I haven't read it, but I will read her other book, This Waving Kingdom. I'm intrigued to see what her fantasy book's going to be like, actually. Insta with kids is super cute. Oh, Insta Love. I was like, Insta Boy went to his dad. Why did that girl say that? I replied, girls are weird sometimes. I was like, fight. This is why it's good to have book discussions, though.
Yeah. Also, we notice things other people don't. Like if I read it in a different way than other people do. So
that's why I also think it's handy for Hope to be here, because Hope's read all of the books.
That kind of also makes it difficult because she knows what happens next. It's kind of hard in that moment to keep the discussion on the first. But that's no.
Yeah, I know. That's why I'm like, I hate to say it, but somebody rewatch this back and take a shot every time I mention the rest of the series. You'll be drunk by now.
I mean, I can go. I got Jaeger in my freezer. I can go get that now. If you want to play this game, I can do that.
I only have a non-alcoholic drink, but better than nothing.
Yeah, I've only got squash.
But it's not even 2:00 here, so I'd rather not get totally wasted before 5:00. So.
Oh, but that would make it fun.
So I'm going to the next one.
Anytime.
What did you think about the general plot of the book?
I liked it. It just was slow going for me.
I felt like the pacing was kind of weird. Felt slow, slow-ish at the beginning, then kind of normal in the middle, and then a very quick ending.
Yeah,
I feel like the ending felt extremely rushed. I liked the plot idea. Also, that's what I meant with the plot. Kind of gave me Darkest Minds vibes. With being isolated, coming through out of isolation, and having powers that not everyone might understand. In that kind of retrospect. But yeah, I feel like the pacing kind of made the plot kind of weird. I feel like if everything was paced the same way, I feel like the plot would have been a bit nicer. Especially the stay outside of the big place. That's gonna say the when they were with Warner. I feel like they spend a lot of the book is spent outside of that place, but it didn't feel like a lot of time was spent out of it. I feel like they just went out and they just stayed there, and then suddenly they stayed somewhere else again, and boom, done is the book. So that kind of felt like, wait, what happened now? How has the time gone so fast? They spent so much time in one spot, and then suddenly, a very short time in the other spot, and that's it. So I feel like that pacing could have been done a bit better.
Mm-hmm.
See, I kind of liked that because, at the beginning, obviously, Juliet's locked away, and you're sort of thinking, why is she locked away? What's going on here? And then you kind of you learn that there's an Adam, you learn that there's Warner, and then then she's kind of moved to a different kind of place where she's watched, and then Adam getting her away, and then a new place, and when she moved to the new place where she meets the little brother and all of that, it kind of had this kind of little strange calmness to it of here's my little brother, here's where a lot of orphans kind of live and all. I don't know, it had a nice little setting, and then suddenly it's boom, Warner's there again. Oh, we got to run again. It kind of had that little
before the
slow down.
Kind of.
Yeah,
I was just thinking of that.
It sort of went from a nice slow sort of da da da, boom, we're escaping somewhere else. Okay, now we're safe again. Boom, we're running again. So
I feel like that would have made sense if before they left it would have been a bit rushed, but even before they left, when they stayed with Warner, it was quite slow pacing, which was totally a normal pacing, and then it slowed down, and then it felt rushed. I feel like if there would have been a rushed ending in Warner's place, then it would have been something else. Then it would have been the Quiet Before the Storm. But there was like beforehand it was already quiet, and then there was quiet, and then there was the storm, which I feel like is what made the ending kind of feel rushed. The beginning being a bit more slow paced kind of made sense because she is in isolation, and time runs differently when you're bored and on your own. So that makes kind of sense for the pacing to be off. But otherwise, I felt like the pacing was very much back to front, like kind of offish for me at least. I don't know. I'm weird.
Yeah, I definitely can kind of see what you're saying.
Yeah. For me, is calm before quiet means before the storm means there needs to be a different pacing before the quiet, and for me there wasn't really a big difference in the pacing before they went to the brother.
What do the rest of you guys think? Do you agree? Disagree?
I definitely got a sense of the pacing. Like for me, it felt like it was slow and then it sped up. Like each time there was something that was like action based, it sped up. But then when it was like in the in between, then it slowed down. And at times I felt like it was a little boring.
I felt the whole when they were in at Warner's, I felt everything like super boring kind of. I felt like they could have made that part a bit shorter, then left to the brother, and then made the part where they are at the new place a bit more longer, because I felt like that part was, it isn't the running away that made it rushed for me, it was when they are at the new place where everything for me was like, that kind of felt rushed for me, because it was like, and then suddenly the book's done.
But then the next book kind of leads off, so it's like,
yeah, the action scenes being fast-paced completely makes sense, but the ending scene where she's in the new place to be a bit more faster-paced does not actually make sense, because that one should be completely calm, because she's in a new place that's supposed to be completely calm. That's why she's there. Just saying.
Rosie's like, what do you think about the plot? ... Chirp, 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 silence. I feel it's like everyone just being like, what did I think about the plot?
It's
like it's that moment of
You
thought.
gotta think of what we want to say, Rosie. Jesus.
Like, can we not think? Are we meant to know? Like,
and it's also the thing, like, okay, who's going to start talking first? I don't want to talk.
So we don't all of a sudden start talking. You're like kind of like, who's gonna go first when I can add my thoughts?
Let's just raise our hands from now on.
And then Rosie's, at the same time, Rosie's like, I have no idea what you're saying. No, it's best to not know. That makes what the book intriguing. Maybe you're sat there like, I kind of want to read it now. Like, I love the defensiveness here. All right, so shall we talk about the characters next?
Yeah.
So Juliet, Warner, Adam, Kenji, James. I feel like Winston, very small at the end, but I feel like those were the main characters of the book, really. Unless I'm forgetting someone, but
I don't think so. I think those are all the characters.
I don't think so. Her main characters for the first one.
You just sat there like, I think those were the first characters of the first
No,
book.
I'm like, who's been introduced? What book did they get introduced in? Yeah, those are like the main ones when I think of the first book. I'm like, yeah, those would be the characters you'd start listening.
So shall we talk about like what we thought about Juliet first, like the main character?
I did like Juliet, but I would have liked to see more of just her, because she was like, okay, I like how at the first I was like, she's very much her based, but now she's very much focused on Adam. And I feel like I would have liked to know more about just her and not just her and Adam.
Yeah, a little bit more about how she ended up getting there, except...
Yeah, I mean, like, that came very late.
Yeah.
Like, what happened? It's like, wouldn't that be like one of the things you would think while in isolation, you would think how you got there? But no, she thinks that like a year after being out of isolation.
Yeah, she's just like, I guess I'm just here. Not questioning why she hasn't been released or if she will ever.
I don't even know when that moment came in when she thought about why she got into isolation, but I'm not 100% sure if it was plot relevant when she thought about it. I feel like it would have made a lot more sense to have it at the beginning because yes, okay, then it spoils the readers, but it actually makes sense for her to think about why she's during isolation, not afterwards.
Yeah, like it wouldn't really spoil the reader. It would just be more of like set up for the character, and another aspect to like set up her character development of she's stuck in this place for this reason. Here's how she got here, and then seeing her get out and go from there would have made a little bit more sense instead of, oh, she's out. Now we'll start kind of going with character development and all that.
And honestly, if she had that thought about why she ended up in isolation during isolation, we would actually know what effect her touch has. Because all it says, I think, in the back is that her touch is dangerous to people and that her touch is power, but that's all. And then suddenly someone be like, we are going to use your power. And everyone is like, okay.
Just like, okay, yeah, sure.
Like, I don't know what her power does.
Yeah, and they don't go into like what like the main accident was of why she ended up getting in there until like almost halfway through the book.
Yeah, very late.
So I think like Warner brings it up saying, "I know what you did," and I'm like, "Good."
You're like,
can you explain it to me?
Yeah, you're like, thank you, Warner. I like this is why we end up liking Warner. He reveals the info. I liked Juliet's first few chapters. Like, I must admit, I really liked sort of like, how she sort of like, I've been locked up for 264 days is literally the first line. And then I really like the bit with like the shower bit where like Adam is just like, what happens now? What does this mean? And she's like, yeah, it's shower time. You've literally got to run and shower, like sort of thing. Like, I really like that. And obviously the next minute finding out that he's like a soldier and it's just like, ooh. So like, yeah.
I got this.
Yeah. But yeah, I liked her first few chapters because she was kind of like talking about what was going on and like herself and everything and that she'd been doing it for so long, blah, blah, blah. But then it was the insta-love bit where I was a bit like, Juliet, no.
I would have also, I feel like, yes, we learned about her emotions, but we learned about just a select emotion. Like, we mostly learned about her love emotion towards Adam, and then occasionally her not wanting to touch anybody emotion, which isn't actually an emotion, when it's like, I wanted to know more emotions. Like, I don't know, you suddenly seeing a tree and being like, oh my gosh, trees exist.
Yeah, being like, oh my god, nature, not there's a tree, moving on.
Like, aren't you having any emotions seeing the outside again suddenly? Like, okay, yes, she feels betrayed because Adam is suddenly someone in the army, basically.
More interesting than a tree.
Yeah, like, as somebody that doesn't leave the house that often, anytime I leave the house after even like 3 or 4 days, I go outside and I'm like, nature.
Yes.
I cannot imagine like 200 and some days of not going outside and then just being like, okay, yeah, moving on. I'd be like,
the first thing I'd notice,
the trees, the sky, there's clouds.
And also the whole like her being so against the clothing that was laid out for her. It's like, oh my gosh, what where are your problems that you're so against clothing?
If
like,
it
that's
was
a little
really
like,
kind
oh
of
my gosh,
I don't do from the same dancers I've been isolated in. Okay, she might not like dresses, but she could still do something with the clothing she has. Like, why is she so against new clothing that don't stank of stuff? Of isolation for years. Just saying.
Yeah.
I don't know if she had, like, if she got clothing from there, or if she wore the clothes she was arrested in, basically.
I know if somebody gave me clothes, I'd be like, ooh, thanks, less than I have to buy.
Yeah, clean brand new clothes. Oh.
If anything, I would have questioned, I'd be like, how do you know what size of clothing I am?
Yeah, like
or
that's
like I'd be
Yeah,
worried. I'm
yeah.
like, it's not gonna fit. Not
She
why
didn't
did you
even
wear
care. She was like,
clothes?
I don't like clothing. I don't like dresses. No, I don't like dresses. I was be like, what? Why do you know what
If
I
it
wear?
was something like, I don't know, if it was like see-through or like very skin tight and revealing, I can understand her putting up more of a fight to it. But
I think the last one was had very little actually covering her, because that's the idea that he had for the
Like in that instance, I do kind of see being all like, okay, why do I have to wear this thing? But even then, it's like, it's either wear the clothes or parade around naked. I would definitely prefer the clothes.
Yeah.
Especially
she could have like now I'm thinking about Julia and the Phantoms. I don't know if anyone's seen that show, but at the end they're like how did you find our size? And then the other one is like, that's your question, not like how did you put us in these clothes? I have to think of that. Like that moment, they're like, how did you find our size? It's like, not how did you put us in these clothes? They are asking the correct questions. She's not asking anything.
Yeah, she's just like, nah, don't like clothes.
No.
I will never read the book. I'm just here to laugh. Well, it's still entertainment, so
I swear, now I just want to go find a live for a book that I've never read and just see what Rosie's doing.
Yeah.
The thing is, we're keeping it spoiler-free. Others do a spoiler in a spoiler-free section. So I feel like this was more fun because we keep it spoiler-free. And then to try and keep it spoiler-free, we have to like hint at stuff, which I feel like makes it much more fun for people that never intend to read it. Because they're like, yeah, that sounds really funny, trying to hint at something that we don't know and we might never actually know about.
Hello, Trin. Yeah, I believe we're all doing all right.
Yeah.
Well, we seem to be having fun, so I assume we are.
Yeah.
Oh, creepy with the clothes, Rosie.
I mean,
Rosie, you secretly know the size of our clothes, don't lie.
If she does, give me my size, because I don't even know it.
Honestly, she was locked up in isolation, so she could have just had several clothes from there. And then he could have just easily taken one from there and checked the size. It's not that big of a deal to find someone's clothing size.
Yeah, I know, but it's kind of more of like a funny little joke of like, that would be my first thought. I'd be like, you're sure these are the right size?
Like, for since I've been in isolation.
I want to be spoiled. Spoil me, I deserve it. Why are you making it sound like some strange erotica novel?
Oh, yeah, it's definitely not that.
You're in the wrong life, Rosie. I haven't either. Probably never will. So spoilers are fine. I think we kind of like been spoiling anyway, like because it's a live show about a book, so you know.
Mm-hmm.
Probably the first like 20 minutes were spoiler free, if that, and then now it's just like
I tried to keep spoiler free.
Well, it's like it's kind of spoiler free,
yeah.
but like every few minutes will just be somebody slipping in something that like is just like a little spoiler.
It's very hard to keep this completely spoiler free. It would never actually happen.
No, a book discussion live, you know, it's hard. Like, you know,
you would have to
unless you literally just say
outside.
Yeah, unless you literally just say, okay, we can't say this. 20 minutes before the live, saying what you can't say. Pretty much a fully spoiler-free live would just be like, okay, I enjoyed the book, the characters, the plot was good. Okay, bye.
Yeah, it would be like 20 minutes long.
And then you'll be like, wait, you read a book for a month and that's all you're going to give me?
I have to say, my favorite character was the brother.
Yeah, he was...
That's sunshine. Like, such sunshine.
What did you guys think about Adam? He's my next character.
I felt like I don't remember too much of him, because we mostly see him out of Juliet's perspective. and we don't actually know much about him, despite him having been a nice guy to her while in school.
Having a random bird tattooed on his chest.
That's kind of her dream, but
Just
That was one thing I questioned though too, because when she's in isolation, she kept talking about the bird.
But then it never came up again. I feel like.
Oh, it like
Yeah.
the screens all disappeared. That's weird. But no, what I was saying is that was weird that it was like she was thinking about this bird the whole time, and then it magically shows up on his chest or his shoulder or whatever, and I'm like, what is this about?
But also, after isolation, we never actually hear about that bird again. So I completely forgot about the bird when the tattoo came up. I was like, what is the significance with this bird? It's a bird. Have you never seen a bird before?
Yeah, I'm sitting here like going, there was a bird?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like, at the beginning, it's very bird focused, I feel like, if I remember correctly. Then there was nothing about the bird, and then suddenly she sees his tattoo, and then she's like, "Oh my gosh, I've dreamed about this bird every night."
Mm-hmm.
My thing is how is she dreaming about this bird if she's only seen it like one time before? Has he had this since they were children? Who is allowing this child to get a tattoo of a bird on his chest?
I think he said that he also dreamt of this bird. I think it was just a collective dream. I don't know. I might be interested if Warner has the bird as well.
Rosie.
Was the book worth reading, Trin says?
As a first, yeah, as a first book to get into a series that, if it's been really hyped, I would say yes. But if it was just stopped at the 3 books, I don't know. I'm kind of iffy about it.
I'd say it's worth reading if you've been debating on it. Like, should I not? It's like, yeah, you should, just to see if it's the kind of book for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Like, it's not bad at all. It just might not be for everybody because it's heavily character driven versus plot driven. So if you're into more of plot driven books, it might not be for you.
Yeah, it's more character, isn't it? Yeah.
And also, it does depend on what you've been reading beforehand and what are you reading around the same genre, because as it was said before, it has very similar vibes to other dystopian novels around the same time of coming out. Like for me, the whole time I was thinking of Darkest Minds, and I love Darkest Minds, so for me, the book kind of fell short due to having the similarities to Darkest Minds and me loving the Darkest Minds. This did not have the same feelings as Darkest Minds had. How many times can I say Darkest Minds?
Should we do the stop thing with you saying Darkest Minds?
Darkest Minds and the Darkest Minds, but 2 Darkest Minds.
Yeah, if you have read similar books beforehand, it might not actually be as good. It might actually feel a little bit. It might fall a little bit short due to similarities to other books.
I can see what you're saying, because even with like the Hunger Games, this one kind of felt short for me. Because I felt the Hunger Games had more detail, more depth, and a plot. And this one, we're like, okay, she's in isolation. She comes out of isolation. There's insta-love, and then what happens?
We find out more about, like in Hunger Games, we find out more about the world building in chapter 1 than through the whole book of Shatter Me.
Yeah.
And it depends on what kind of you like. Like, I like world building. And so Shatter Me, in that perspective, fell short for me.
Mm-hmm.
And then compared to Darkest Minds, where there's a lot of world building in just the first book, there's kind of a big difference. I don't know. I'm comparing those two because they're so similar in like...
Yeah, they are very similar.
Vibes and stuff, yeah. And they were like a year apart from each other, so I don't think anyone has copied anything because you take like 5 years of writing, so...
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And also it starts off as her being like the only one with this power, like, and that's as far as we know as well. It's not until obviously the end where we're like, oh, there's other people that are like her.
But I mean, like, also with the Darkest Minds, she was the only one that she thought she was the only one survived with her color of power in the first book. So they had their similarities with Darkest Minds. like she was in isolation with other people who had powers, but she thought she was the only one survived. I think she was a red, and all the other reds were killed off, orange or red, and she was the only one that wasn't killed off, and she thought she was the only one with her powers. So that was their similarities there. Juliet, she thinks she's the only one. And I forgot her name in Darkest Minds. She thinks she is the only one left with her powers. With her color, basically.
Whereas Juliet didn't even know that there were other people with powers. No.
Go walk the dogs, like usual. Go think about your behaviour, Katie. Go stand in the corner. I can't hear the word bird anymore. This song is stuck in my head now. I'm going to go walk my birds. Now, what did you think about Warner?
I thought he was a creep.
I didn't like him. I hate the manipulation. In this book, like manipulating his soldiers to touch her to see what she does. It's like, honestly, if you're such a dick, just touch her yourself. If you just want to see it, just do it yourself. Like, honestly, don't put others through that pain. Like, okay, at the end,
I red flag and
but still.
But even still, that kind of begs the question. Like, yeah, you could say Warner could just touch her himself, but we later found in the book that he was able to touch her. But what's the difference in someone touching her versus she touches them and they have that reaction?
There is still no reason for him to force her into rescuing a child while barely wearing any clothes.
Oh, that was a
true
scene where I was literally like,
honestly, no, don't force it.
Yeah.
That's the thing that drove me nuts. Find volunteers that actually want to touch her. And she's a woman, she's a girl, so there will be men that want to touch her. Let's be honest. She doesn't have to force anyone, and she doesn't have to take a child. Honestly.
But that and also in the same token, we also found out even if when she does touch people, it's not like they do in fact die. They just kind of like are rendered incapacitated, and then they come back.
It depends on how long she touches them, and people are like can't separate the touch. She is the one that has to separate the touch. I think if she touches them for too long, I do think that their energy starts draining so much that they're unable to come back.
And that's what happened to the little boy.
Yeah, and she does say that she feels the power in her growing. So there is the power hunger in herself that she doesn't want to feel. That's why she doesn't want to touch people. And for him to force her like that to touch people is just no. That's the thing that I hate.
But I feel like with like Tahereh Mafi making it a baby, it made that scene though. Because otherwise we wouldn't be like, oh my god, how could you do that to a baby?
Yeah,
you know
it kind of almost like
I would have felt like that even if it would
heart.
have been an adult. I don't know. I would have felt like that, and either way, no matter who it would have been.
Because it's like a poor helpless baby.
Yeah.
But honestly, nobody should be in a situation where they are forced to help someone by hurting them even more. No matter who that someone is, no matter what age that someone is, there should nobody be like, okay, protect them, save them by hurting them even more.
But like, I feel like we're made to hate Warner for a reason.
Yeah.
And I feel that is purely because of what happens, which is why I say that I ended up being Team Warner. Like, I think that's purely why it kind of like hate him and be like, you're disgusting for throwing yourself on her, saying like, we are destined to be together, Juliet. I love you too.
And that's the thing. I do want to know why you changed your team. I do want to know why you're Team Warner, but I don't know if I want to sit myself through another book. Not because it sucked or anything, but I just found, like with the first book, that I didn't find the motivation to actually sit down and read. Ebook is the format that I read the least. And right now, I'm mostly reading ebook because I can't find the motivation to pick up my audiobook. Which for me is like, normally it's the other way around. So I don't know if I would be able to read another one of them. I do want to know what happens. So I might just read the wiki, like the Shatter Me wiki, like a hobby of mine to read the wiki while reading the books. I messed up. I know. I spoil myself by reading, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I want to know how it gets to that point that I just spoil myself in.
Yeah.
It happens a lot. Makes sense.
What do you guys think about Kenji?
Who was Kenji again?
The one that came
He was like another soldier, I believe,
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
came
yeah.
and followed to the home.
Honestly, I would have felt more towards him if we would have seen more from him before. But just suddenly he ends up in front of the door, like hurt and bleeding, and then it's like, oh, that's Kenji. Like, who?
Yeah, but and that's kind. I agree because we didn't see a lot of him, and then all of a sudden he was like an undercover agent from the facility, and he has an ability, and I'm like, wait, what?
Honestly, I don't even know if we knew his name before he ended up in front of the door.
Yeah, I don't think you do.
We actually knew the name, and that's like it could have been done where Kenji was for parts of the moment her her guard, where Adam, for example, wasn't able to guard her. This way, we have a connection to Kenji. This way, we know Kenji, so when he ends up in front of the door, we actually feel emotions towards him and actually be like, okay, either we want him to die from his wounds, or we don't want him to die from his wounds because we actually know him. But this way, it's like, oh, okay, I don't know who that is, so I don't care what happens.
Yeah, there wasn't enough given
Correct me if
about
I'm
him.
wrong, Hope, but doesn't Kenji have a bigger part like later on in the books or something?
But not in this moment, and not in this book, and it doesn't.
Yeah.
Sometimes the character constellation, especially in the beginning, hints towards what happens later in the book, and who gets a bigger role. And this did not hint towards anything with Kenji because we don't actually know about him until like the second half of the book. I think I listened to the audiobooks. I don't know when exactly he came into the book, but we don't know about him until.
I can't remember if his name was mentioned like once in the beginning.
I don't remember.
I think it was. I think he like went to the room that Juliet and Adam was in, and he was like asking about her or whatever. And then he was just like, "No, leave it alone."
Yeah, I feel like there was
like
one conversation.
It's like you miss that moment, and then it's like I don't remember you, and then it's like there's ways to hint at someone being important in a different way, where some like you see them from like the corner of your eye, or they pop up being having to guard you, or having to like bring take you somewhere or something, and you seeing him again and again, even just
and then like or even like a quick like conversation here and there.
Yeah, but this way it's like, okay, he popped up once, but
that's like, okay, cool, moving on.
Yeah, and I didn't even register that he popped up before.
Yeah, I don't even remember.
Sure he's more in the second book, if I remember though. So I think this is kind of like his cameo role. And then he becomes.
I could imagine him being more important in the later books, but this one was a bit disappointing for Kenji.
Oh, no. And then of course we all love James.
So. Yeah,
like
beauty pie.
He's probably like the favorite character of the book.
I love how everyone loves him, and we don't even know about him until later in the books.
Yeah, it's like he's mentioned like what. How far in, and we're just like, we love him. I think it's because he's just like the innocent little child that you feel immediately like you need to protect in this big bad world from these people and all of that.
Yeah, but that makes sense to have him come in later compared to Kenji. Kenji was there with at Warner's place, so there would have been ways to hint at him. With James, of course, he was hidden from Warner, so it doesn't make sense to have James being mentioned beforehand. And with James being such a out of character kind of way, like you just notice James just by him opening up his mouth, I feel like. So him, he just says hi, and you're like, yep, that's James.
Yeah, you're like, okay, yeah, we love you. That was like my immediate reaction. I was like, if anything happens to you at any point in the series, I will cry.
Yeah, and just him being like, oh my gosh, are you back? I think that's what he said when they arrived, was him like, oh my gosh, Adam, are you back? I was
Yeah,
like, oh my gosh, this is so cute. And we didn't even know about him. And Kenji even fell in front of the door. And I was like, okay, happens.
And you're just like, who's that?
And age difference, like the age makes a difference, because with younger characters, you immediately have an open heart. You immediately want to take care of them.
Yeah, because they can't take care for themselves. Versus older characters, and they're like teens. You're like, well, you know, like some things you'd be able to take care of yourself. But versus what James is like 10.
Yeah, I think 10, 11.
So.
I think. Yeah.
And you're just like, you innocent little human. Nobody hurt you.
Yeah, and with Kenji, even Adam was super like, how did she even know where I lived? Like, how are you here? That made me like not actually like Kenji too much, because Adam was like super like
what you doing here? Why?
Yeah, like
why should I like him?
Yeah, and then immediately like he was sort of like, wait, you followed me here, like did Warner follow you, sort of thing, like, you know.
Or did you send them my way? Like, how did you even know where I live?
And
and that's something that is, I don't think, ever really like properly explained how.
I think they just mentioned that like he's always known where he's lived, just, like, but he's never like explained how he knew.
Yeah.
Maybe he knows the clothes sizes as well.
Honestly,
Kenji just knows everything. Clothes sizes, where everyone lives.
That's his power.
That's his power, yeah.
He's a mega mind.
Anyway, and Winston, whatever isn't it? Yeah, like he was just at the end, so there's not really much point talking about him.
But one thing I do like,
I don't even remember Winston.
Connection with James, like that's the one thing I liked about Adam, is his relationship to James. Like that character constellation is done really well with Big Brother and Little Brother.
He's really protective of him. So.
Yeah, that's like.
So you best damn well look after my brother Kenji. If anything happens to him, that's it.
That moment where he was willing to give his little brother to another soldier that he didn't completely trust at that moment. It's like, you must put much more trust into Kenji than into yourself at this moment. Like, you have to take care of Juliet. You can't take care of Rose.
I love the moment where like Adam like catches up with like James and Kenji, and then Kenji's like, "Do you trust me now?" And Adam's like, "Maybe."
It's like I kind of have to in this moment.
It's just maybe. I don't remember that bit. What about what do you think about the writing style?
It's not really something I focus on too much while reading, to be honest, especially with the audiobook. I didn't really notice too much like differences in writing styles. I feel like my dyslexia kind of makes it a bit difficult as well to notice differences in writing style. And as I have no images in my mind, like, don't even ask me how I imagine anything in my mind, because there's nothing. So I don't really notice any like differences in writing style, only like the whole crossing out thing that was quite a big deal in the audiobook.
I say the writing style is very simple and easy to understand, which does kind of make it a quick read. I think I read this in like 2 days when I read it, which back when I first read it, that was very rare for me to read like it's like 300 pages or something.
Yeah, I think this one was like, what, 330, 390, something like that?
Yeah, something like that. Normally that would never happen for me. Like a 300-page book would take me at least 3 to 4 days, if not more. But I finished it in like, I think it was less than 2 days, because it was just so easy to read. Like the writing style, there was no like, it was just simple.
Yeah. And the chapters were so short with it. So, yeah. I mean, I liked the writing style. Like, I didn't find it complicated. I didn't read it and be like, "Wait, what's just happened?" Like, or like, you know, it's not complicated at all. So, yeah.
I agree. It's a very easy, quick read. I didn't have any trouble with it either.
Yeah, I didn't either.
It was good. I think it goes with it, with the book sort of thing being quick.
Mm-hmm.
So we kind of touched on world building anyway. What books would you recommend to someone who liked Shatter Me?
I think I already said mine.
Yes, Darkest Minds.
Several times.
Yeah,
Darkest Minds, I think that's
yeah,
the title.
I do definitely agree with that.
Do you think any books like with superpowers in for people? Like, I don't know. I'm trying to think off the top of my head.
I mean, it does definitely depend on someone. If someone is more like plot-based reader or character-based reader. So, like Renegades, for example, would have superpowers and does kind of have a dystopian setting, I feel like. But it's less character-based. I feel like it's more plot-driven, but of course does have characters in it. Like, it always one always sounds like the other doesn't exist. I don't know why in my brain when I hear character-driven, always sounds like there's no plot and the other way around. It's like, no, if there's plot-driven, there's still characters in there, honey. There's still characters. I haven't quite figured out the difference between character-driven and plot-driven.
I would think definitely Hunger Games being a good one if you haven't read Hunger Games yet, especially if you want something that's a little bit more detailed than this.
And
I agree.
Building in there. I feel like dystopian doesn't have as much books anymore. Like,
No.
I like the dystopian genre, but it is quite a small, tiny little corner in the book.
Yeah, like a niche genre that was popular, and then now it isn't as popular.
Kind of sad. I have a side.
Yeah, I wish there were more.
Novel in working, but that's not going to come out until like I feel like 10 years or something. Because it's taking me forever. To write a single chapter.
I'm just trying to think if Goodreads has any YA dystopians on a list. Divergent. I completely forget about Divergent. Like,
true.
I think anything that has like a caste system, or like with Hunger Games, they had the different districts. Anything like that would probably be good because it's gonna show the difference and the similarities with Shatter Me.
I will say that if you like the more of the like romantic elements of Shatter Me, the Selection series might be good, as that's like a kind of more of like a romance series that's dystopian.
That's a good one.
I was also thinking of like Legend by Marie Lu. That would be like quite a good one as well. The Legend.
I would have to say Uglies by Scott Westerfield.
The Giver Quartet is also dystopian. Definitely.
We're just now giving all dystopian recs.
Yeah.
I know. I'm like, I have no idea.
I read this in high school, and I wasn't aware that it's actually 3 books. I was like, years later, I was like, wait, there's 3 more.
I would have to say Uglies by Scott Westerfield because of the whole like caste system that they have between the uglies, pretties, extras, specials, things like that. Yeah, and when the characters go through like the surgery to become pretties, some of them get more extra abilities with that as well, from what I can remember. And then City of Ember as well is a good one.
I know that if you like kind of more of like the power element, I guess, of this book, Reboot by Amy Tintera, that is kind of like a dystopian-ish where some of the characters they're not powers, but they kind of are.
What would also kind of work with that is, now I forgot the name, Vicious by V. Schwab would kind of also fit in that superhero, superpower sort of description into the book. Because they are called like extraordinaries, I think. Not really dystopian, but it definitely kind of fits like the whole superpower plot.
And if you want insta-lovey thing, there's Match by Ali Condi, where
Honestly, for
The young
Insta
people are
Love,
next.
anything before like 2014. Anything around 2014, Insta Love, right away.
Yeah.
Just go on Goodreads. There's loads of lists.
Just
Yeah.
search like 2010s YA dystopian. There's a list.
Yeah, just read them all. I mean, I'm
remember-
slowly going through them. Like, I must admit, like, I'm kind of enjoying going through the old school YA dystopians again.
I remember rereading Starquest by Angelina Josephini, and yeah, definitely Insta loving. But also, apparently it's supposed to be like that because they're like demo. Apparently, it's supposed to be like that.
Did you say Angelini Josephini?
Yeah. I don't know. I think I
thought it
messed
was
up the
Josephine
name.
Angelini because I've read it. Like,
You get what I mean?
I know. Angelini Josephini. I was just there like, I'm sure it was Josephine Angelini.
Have I said yet that I am dyslexic?
backwards author.
I don't know. It's just that one author that kind of makes me like.
But yeah, I get the Starcross vibe from it because I remember reading that, and that's kind of like.
But also, like, I love how it's insta lovey, but like the
Mm.
first second they see each other, she wants to rip out his throat. So
Mm.
take that insta love with a grain of salt.
I also get kind of 1984 vibes because of the way that Warner seems to know what is going on everywhere.
That's why Warner's just interesting.
And with the whole wanting to eliminate literature, just take Fahrenheit 451, I think, because they burn books in it. There is a similarity. Or book
Right.
theme, that works too.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so for those of you that haven't read the next book, what do you think's going to happen next? What's your prediction for the second book? Hope
And
Susanna, like, this
I'm
is
just like-
interesting.
I'm like, I'm just gonna leave.
No, hope stay, because by your face, I want to see how close any of us are facing with your
Hope you have to
prediction.
practice your like complete or like
No.
hide your mouth. Like
Don't poker faces.
I'll just
For
laugh
sure.
it off.
I actually want to see what your thoughts are on the predictions. But
I don't think I'll be able to keep a
good.
straight face if it's right or wrong.
just do this. Just there we go. Or just laugh at what everybody says.
That's
And then
honestly
there
probably
you go.
what I'll do.
Then we won't know. Yeah, we won't know.
Go first, Sunny. Come on. What's your prediction?
I'm trying to stop laughing.
Okay, looking at the time of year that book came out, there was probably going to be some sort of miscommunication between Adam and Juliet while they break up, and then something happens with Warner. Ta-da! Honestly, miscommunication is still a big thing.
She's trying so hard.
At a second hand.
She's gonna dip
Like-
out.
Remind me to not take Hope as a poker partner. I'll
Never.
play against her, but I'm not playing with her
I
as a
cannot
partner.
keep a straight face for the life of me.
Play against her.
No.
I'm drinking.
Just put the book in front of my face.
Okay, Sam, you go on.
Apparently, something really big is gonna happen with Warner, so apparently he's gonna be a big thing.
Feel like-
But
Yeah, I was gonna say I feel like he's gonna make an appearance, but there's also gonna be probably more of the facility that they're in. What is it, the Omega facility? There's probably gonna be more of that. Something's gonna happen between Adam and Juliet. Hope.
I just love that you just have to grab a book really quick.
Honestly, though, I would hate if they would just not show the facility ever again. So that kind of makes sense for them to show it again. That's a That's legit.
Nice.
Now we all have to read it so that we can find out.
Yeah, if you yeah,
This
if
will
you
just be,
like,
be the end if we ever were to like continue on the series and do the live show. It'll be every single time. I'll just be like, gotta keep a straight face.
well, that was going to be my next question. It was going to be, would you read the second book, like even if you got it from the library or something? Like,
I would, yeah.
I would, yeah.
I would maybe if it would be part of a book club, but I would probably not.
See, I have it somewhere.
well, we can make that happen, Sonny.
I mean, like, I wouldn't have picked up the first book if it wouldn't have been for this book club. I did think about it, and I did have the audiobook on my like script shelf, but I don't think I would have actually picked it up if it wouldn't have been for them, because I have so much on my shelf. So it's kind of hard to decide which one to pick and which one not. It's easier to pick the newer books and not the older books.
Are you just giving a quick read of the plot, Alicia?
No, I would never.
I've got one right here. I don't really know what it says on the back, actually.
I know.
That's what it says.
Our lips touch.
Like, I do
So,
also know,
Sonny, you were kind of right.
yeah, I do also know that there are like the like novellas. That this is a series that the novellas honestly like they are almost crucial to the series.
But that's kind of what I hate. What I do kind of prefer if novellas, yes, make the story better, but if you can read the stories without the novella. Because right now I'm reading Lunar Chronicles right now, and I am with Paris at the moment, but I feel like I could easily skip Paris and still understand Winter.
Oh yeah, if I were to do a read of that series, I would literally just skip Paris.
But if I remember, doesn't like
I read it chronologically. That's why I'm reading Paris and then Winter. So, and I'm reading
versus I read Paris after Winter, so I was like, yeah, I didn't need this.
But I feel like reading it chronologically makes a lot of sense. I even read the short stories from the short story collection in between. So I was like, okay, that's fine. How it's to be read, and then the short story.
I read that at the end too because I didn't know it existed until like a month after I finished the series.
And that I feel like that's totally okay as well to read them not chronologically, but in what's the other word? Publication order.
Even I was like, I'm like, what's the word? I know what you're talking about.
I would definitely say that these novellas are really important. Definitely Destroy Me. That's the one about war. That's the one about
at the
Warner,
end of of like the book here, and that is that's Warner's like story.
Yeah, and that kind of adds to like your feelings towards Warner as well. So if you really want to find out why a lot of people go Team Warner, that kind of like does help. So if you find that intriguing,
it explains some of his decisions.
Read the short story, the novellas.
It plants the Warner seed.
Yeah.
It explains Katie's kink.
Well, it'd be interesting to see if I still have a kink. But and it's typical that Rosie comes back when I talk about a kink.
Perfect timing.
You say the word and she is summoned.
She's coming back. We're talking about my kink, Rosie. But yeah, I mean, I definitely do want to reread those books, the next books again, and just be like, okay, I do want to like continue it again because I do want to read like the other books as well because she extended it to loads more books, so it'd be good to like catch up. But I hear that I do hear really good things about like the newer books as well, like from quite a few people. So I am intrigued to see because they're fairly recent books as well from the past few years. That she's
there was just like a final novella. That wasn't really needed, in all honesty. That just came out in, was it November?
Yeah, fairly recently. Was it?
And that I swear, if that is not the final one, I'm done.
Oh my goodness!
Like that novella was not. It literally was just like, it's not really a spoiler if you know what it is, but it's kind of almost like a wedding special between characters.
Mm.
And even then,
depending on the same you are, you're going to be either happy or not.
yeah, and even then, it was almost like just like a 250-page giant epilogue that wasn't needed.
So kind of like with the novella, I think also the novella from A Course So Dark, not A Course So Dark, the other one. Thorn of I cannot.
Court of Thorn Roses?
Court of the Roses, yeah.
Oh yeah,
I like
A Court
that
of Frost
one.
and Starlight.
That one, yeah. I think the novella was kind of also very unnecessary.
I've heard that
I
from
like
quite a few
that
people.
one though, but
I think people liked the novella, but that does not make it less unnecessary.
It is just entirely set up mainly for A Court of Silver Flames.
it's
I
just
feel like-
another excuse to get like them to get down. So
Yeah. Honestly, I'm not 100% sure I like novellas that are solely there to like introduce one book to the others. Like, why do you need a novella, a short book, to introduce the next book? If it's not done well from one book to the next book, then just don't do the next book. Why do you need a novella in between? Like, that's what I don't like.
Yeah.
Mm.
I do kind of agree with that.
Novellas shouldn't be needed to make the plots actually make sense in between books.
Yeah, like I'd say it's fine, like in the case of like the final like Shatter Me novella of it's just kind of like if you want just a little bit more about these characters that
it's like an
doesn't
episode.
contain much plot.
Yeah.
Like there's brief talk about like where the world's going to go, but even then it's like one sentence thrown in here or there.
Yeah. And also it does feel like an epilogue more than like a hint to the next book.
Yeah. That's
like,
why I'm saying like if there's anything else written in the world, it would be entirely unnecessary and I would never read it, even though that this is a series that I love so much.
It would feel completely like a cash grab, honestly.
Sure.
I think that's what Believe Me was more of just like, hey, there was some people that were asking like maybe like for a little bit more of these characters. Let's write a novella that's like 250 pages that contains literally just nothing.
Yeah.
It's like backstage access. Is it really needed?
Mm.
Like with this one, it makes sense to have a novella about the character because you find out the background of the character to understand where the character comes from and why the character is behaving that way. But also, you don't actually need to read this to read the rest of the books. You could completely leave out the novella in Lunar Chronicles.
But quite a few novellas are made that way, like where you don't have to read them, but if you want to learn more about something, like
like I'm trying to think of some series that have, like for example, Back to the Darkest Minds. How many times are we going to mention this series? There's novellas, like kind of like almost like mini novellas throughout this story that I never plan on read. I technically haven't read the fourth book, and I never will because I like the ending of the third.
And I think it's the novellas about the different characters, I think.
Yeah, and I'm like, I don't need them because the base story's enough. And I like it when novellas aren't, like, not attached to the series, but they're not vital.
Yeah.
And, like, I would say, like, the Shatter Me novellas are, like, you don't have to read them, but the experience makes it a lot better.
Yeah, and like, for example, like these are, like, more not an adult sort of novellas.
Exactly,
so.
and then there's...
It kind of feels weird to need to have read a novella to enhance my experience of a book. Because honestly, I'm not even sure I want to finish this because I hate the character this is about so much that I don't want to like them. Hope's nodding like yes. But at the same time, I want to know what happened. But honestly, I could easily leave this out, just go to Winter and completely understand Winter without any issues. And I do prefer novellas that do not like make a difference in reading, because even if I might like Nirvana at the end of this book, I will still hate it once I start reading Winter, because it has been a lot of time difference between this one and Winter. A lot happened between the books.
Yeah, and as somebody that, as I said, I didn't read Ferris until after I finished Winter, I still hated the character without the novella.
Yeah, and it made no difference in what she thought about the character, because time has, like, there is a big time difference between Ferris and starting Cinder, I think. Because here, she's a young girl, and her sister is just crowned as queen, basically. So there is a big difference in timeline between the books. So she has done a lot of bad things between whatever happened in this book that made people like her at the end of the book.
Yeah, but most of that is explained in, like, the next book, which, like, now it's just a novella discussion with Hope and Sunny. We've been on this novella talk for like 10 minutes.
Honestly, I'm super stoked to read more about this, though. And Winter. I can't wait to make Winter into a sim. Made all the other girls, except for Lavana, into sim characters. I'm gonna do the same for Winter, though.
Wrapping it up then. What did you all rate this book?
I forgot.
I rated it 5 stars, but looking back, it probably would be a 4 upon a reread. Which, if we do decide to do something where we continue the series, I would obviously actually reread it and then continue on.
Yeah, I'm kind of like, more I think about it, I mean, I have to see what comes out as on core pile, but like, it's either going to be a 4.5 or a 5, I think, for me.
I gave it a 3.
Just on the reread.
But 3 for me is decent. It's not bad. It's not good. It's just...
Yeah, it's like, okay.
Yeah.
I don't understand why people hate on 3-star ratings.
Yeah,
it just isn't... there's something special and there's nothing bad about it.
Yeah,
for me,
I always say there's like good 3 stars and bad 3 stars.
Yeah.
It just depends on...
But I also end up now I started giving 0.5 ratings, so for me, then I would have given it just a 2.5, which I have done before. But this one I gave just a basic 3 stars, which just means I didn't hate it, but I also didn't love it. There was just nothing really to pull me in. And there's nothing bad about that.
But if you were to, let's say, continue on the series, it could get better for you, or it could get worse.
Exactly. And that's the thing. 3 stars also doesn't mean I will never continue the series. If I gave it... So my star rating is kind of really weird. 1 star for me is I DNF'd it.
Versus
same for
my
me as well.
DNFs are like no star rating.
Yeah, but like for some, like with Goodreads, I kind of like to give it give it stars. Then with 2 stars means I almost DNF'd it, and there was a reason I didn't do it. Like, there was something still hanging on there for me that I didn't DNF. And
Yeah,
I know
like you wanted to see
like
what
you
happened
dragged
to the
yourself
character.
through the book.
Yeah, but I was like, oh, I wanted to finish it. But there was like this one character, or this one plot point or something that just made me, I want to continue reading. I don't want to DNF it. And then it just goes like this. Like 5 for me is definite reread, and then 4 is like maybe a reread. And 3 is like right in the middle.
And then there's me where my rating system doesn't make sense, and the rating system is different per each genre.
Yeah, most times I just be like, this feels like a 4.
Yeah.
It doesn't always make sense. I try to make it make sense, but don't think too much about what I'm writing.
What about you, Sam? What'd you give it?
Gave it like a 4-star. Like running it through Cawpile, it got like 4 7s and 3 8s. It looks like so it would be like 4.
Hello.
Oh, hello. What did you give Shatter me?
Did you like it?
4 stars.
Starstruck. Just
That's pretty much what he does. Okay, I watch TV.
That face was like, I don't want to though. Like,
It's just like, so what you do?
You have to be laughing too much because Faye wants to stay. There's too much laughing happening.
yeah, he wants to be. See?
He wants to He wants to be.
I honestly love when the kids pop into line. It's adorable.
Go out in the living room.
So it's nice that we kind of like all kind of agreed on a rating like around 4 stars, 3 stars, you know, that like
Yeah. And I do understand why people give it a higher rating than I did. Just preference.
I think way back years ago I loved it so much. I don't know why, but
yeah, but also most times you compare it to what you've been reading at the moment. Beforehand, I just read Keeper of the Lost Cities, and I completely loved it. So cool. Like this one, I didn't like to because I don't give it the same rating.
what's your name? Rosie's asking.
Oh, that was my son, Alan.
Alan, Steve.
He's like, yes. What do you want?
He's the life of the party for sure.
So as we were talking about, like, you know, would you read the next book? If it was a book for the book club, would you read it? Would you be interested in reading it for the book club?
Yeah.
Because, like, maybe at some point we can, like, use the sequel for another month.
I wouldn't put it too far away because then we end up just forgetting what happened in the first book.
Yeah, like maybe like
what happened in the first book, to be honest. I was like, how does that
like
again?
just like an idea of maybe do it like after like Crescent City.
But that's also a reason why I don't like doing series as book clubs too much, because you end up just doing the first and then you never
continue on.
Yeah, but that's the thing. You would have to do like the whole series at once and not just do the first book and then see from there, because I end up if I start the first book, I end up wanting to read the rest right away. Otherwise, I completely forgot what happens.
Yeah, I know. Like I was so close to almost like just staying up all night and reading this to have it reread, but then I was like, oh no, I'll read the entire series in February and just throw my TBR out the window. My giant 19 book TBR would just turn to what, like 20 some.
I know that feeling.
Yeah, so I was like, you know what? We'll just like go based on what I remember and like Google what happened in it. Literally 20 minutes before the live, I was like, Shatter Me recap. What happens in Shatter Me?
And then I was like asking you, like, do you remember what happened at the end? And you're like, no.
I was like, they didn't discuss this.
And you're like going backwards through the book.
Literally just reading it backwards.
But yeah, like.
And then also I got confused because of the like novella in the back here. I flipped to the very back and I'm like, wait, no, that's not it.
So what's going on? This is not the same world.
I don't know this one.
So obviously February and March is going to be House of Earth and Blood.
Which again, for that live, I would have read probably everything in that.
For April, did you want to do a standalone month where we just read like a standalone so it breaks up a series? Or would you want to read the next Shatter Me book maybe that month?
At some point, it would be nice to do standalone. But we could just continue Shatter Me afterwards to finish Shatter Me.
Yeah, read like book 2 and then go from there. Does everybody want to continue it and then just do that? Or obviously, if like only 1 or 2 people want to continue the series, they could do it at their own time.
Yeah. And do a buddy read maybe if they want to.
But if like everybody was on a mutual agreement,
so maybe I could always put a poll up on the Twitter or something saying, would you want to continue the Shatter Me series as one of a buddy reads?
Like
and if we get enough interest.
Like throughout the year, it would be like 1 book a month until the end of the series.
Yeah.
And then the novellas would be like optional.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
then
like-
we could maybe do some standalones. I feel like standalones would also kind of make
Yeah, maybe like you could do like
added
the
people.
first trilogy of Shatter Me, break it up with one or two like standalones.
Yeah.
Then
Yeah.
the second to break it up. That's obviously if everybody agrees on that.
Yeah.
I would also
And I'd
put
probably
lots of
ask the
things
same
in
for
there.
like the second house, the second Crescent City book as well.
House of
'cause
Sky and Breath.
obviously, like, because that's
We can do those
literally-
next time I have exams.
I'm sorry. Once I read the first one and I get my hands on that second one, I'm not waiting.
Oh, I'm making a joke of like I will be like the last like I'll have just finished the second book by the time we're discussing the first chunk of the first book. Because as soon as that gets in the mail, like it's supposed to be here on the 24th, I think is what it's saying for shipping. I don't care what I'm reading or what I'm doing. Everything's going out the window.
Honestly,
Like
though,
I got plans, I'm canceling them.
honestly, use the second one during my next exam time. Then I can
When's
easily
that?
just stay because I'm skipping the first one. It will make sense for me to not
Yeah.
do the second one because I'm just not that into like huge books. I'm already dreading reading Unbirthday, and it's like a 500 book.
Well, we could always do a
You know what
thing where,
I
like,
said?
if anybody wanted to continue on with the Shatter Me series, we just do it as a buddy read, not as a book club or something like
Yeah.
that. Like,
could also
and then
do that.
like
Well, yeah,
the
it could
same
be
with
like
the
a-
second Crescent City
It
book.
could be a buddy read, and then if we did want to like, do something like this and discuss it, it could just be not live if nobody wants to do it live.
Or we could just do an end of the whole series discussion where we go live and then talk about the whole series. Because then it's easier.
Even
we
as a
don't
buddy
have
read,
to
like, we can
decide
just
that we
do it.
forget which part which book.
It could be like a trying to figure out how to word this is like you could still do lives, but maybe it's just more chill of like
Like the Shatter, like the second book, Shatter Me buddy read live show sort of thing.
yeah, like Unravel Me buddy read
Yeah, yeah.
live show, and
While
then
we have this as a buddy read, we can still use another book for the book club.
yeah, and then it would just be 2 live shows.
Yeah, and we only people that want to read the Shadow Me series then have to read the series. So this
Yeah,
way,
and
there's
then
no,
also
like, an obligation to read the series.
Yeah, and then also if somebody didn't want to continue with the Shatter Me series or they didn't
can
read
stop
it,
out.
but they still want to join the book club, they still would be able to.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
then I'm also thinking, like, for some people, adding 2 kind of books to their TBR is that.
But also, like, we wouldn't force anyone to read 2 books. It would be by their own choice. And honestly, we know people, they love putting more books on their TBR than they can read. Hi.
No, I'm trying to make it go down.
Well, because
I'm mainly sitting here like, I have like per month, like depending on the month, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That would put me up to certain months like 6 books already on a TBR. Between
that
all
is
the
fine.
between
Like,
all the
I'm
buddy
used to
things that I
12
do and all that, like 6 plus to like I can do that.
Let me check my January TBR. I think it was 17 books and I read 4.
Mine has 16 books.
No,
and
I
read
only do 4 books a month.
It was 15 books and I read 4.
My January was 16. I read all of them plus an additional 6.
Oh no.
And my February TBR, which is the shortest month of the year, I went, it was 19 in my video. I've added another one, and 2 of those are like the Crescent City books, which are like 800 pages each. So if you need me, I'll be reading.
Honestly, for this month, I just said anything that I have still not finished. So like Paris, and then Keeper of the Lost Cities, the second book, and then my audiobooks and my uni books. Anything that I haven't finished yet is on my TBR. And then once I finish something, I can add something to my TBR. which looking at my shelf the whole time, it's driving me nuts.
And then there was me. And then there was
read.
me last night. Like, should I start a 350-page book that's not on my TBR?
Don't do it.
Your brain's like, yes.
Don't do it.
Ebook of the Lost Cities Exile is like 500 pages on ebook. Ebook is my least favorite format, and I hate books over like 400 pages.
Ebooks are my favorite way to read, and 500-page books are like my love.
So far, I'm doing quite well because I've been reading every time my sister's having an exam. I'm like sitting there like, interesting, because I can't be too loud. So I'm like reading while my sister's taking her exams.
Sam, are you still alive?
Oh, yeah.
I'm using my sister for reading time. I'm not afraid to say it. I'm using my sister for reading time. That doesn't work.
Rosie,
So,
you
like,
have to remember.
Let's say if I tweeted out saying, would anybody want to continue the Shatter Me series with the next book, Unravel Me, and then I'll do a poll or something, and then I don't know.
And then in which month would
I don't know.
So the Unravel Me would be.
I could do like March, April, May, or something like that.
Well,
Basically, I'm just like, what do I have to write out for my list of like buddy reads or book clubs?
Yeah, I'll just do like 2 polls within the same tweet or something, but like if so, which months, and then like and then just see if we get enough interest, even if it's just us 5.
Yeah.
Honestly, at some point, I could imagine just ending up being like 5 buddy reads at the same time, and then the book club goes. Because we have
I have like for example, a buddy read that I'm doing that's kind of similar to what we're suggesting is like instead of a book club, it was a read along.
Yeah.
Where it was just like every month we would in a buddy group chat talk about it if we wanted to, and then there'd be a live show, which that's actually tomorrow. And like that was a perfectly fun thing because you still had that almost like a book club.
Yeah.
And you're doing the lives, but it's not like not as hectic.
Yeah, definitely.
But
I kind of would like to do that with the Untwisted Tales, which I just got in the mail today. And
yeah, I saw
looking
that.
at how the books are each different books and set in like different fairy tales, it would then kind of make sense that each book has their own live show. Because they don't actually you don't actually have to read one to read the others. So I don't know if anyone would be interested in
just a tale read along.
Let me know. I don't have.
Oh, why is that? Part of me is like, yeah, let's do that, and then the other part of me is like, you have such big TBR. No.
By the way, I love that the last one is the big one because that one's 500 pages, and all the other ones are like around 300.
You'll just read everything up to that, and then just be like, that actually doesn't exist.
And on birthday, it's just gonna go away.
On birthday, you meet Adhald.
Doesn't exist. No. So if anyone's interested in that, me just doing self-promo about something that doesn't exist, message me. I don't have YouTube.
I was gonna say, can I join in on that? Do it as our little thing?
Yes. If Hope's in, we're gonna do the live shows on Hope's channel.
Why do I always sign myself up for things on live shows? Like last year, it was rereading the Throne of Glass series with some people, and so I'm doing that this year. And that was literally just like 2 people were like, "Hey, we're buddy reading this," and I'm like, "Can I join?" And then like everybody on the live joined, and now I'm like, "Am I gonna sign myself up to host things?" Sure.
Well, you've admitted it in a live show. You can't get out of it now. So
yeah. You done doomed yourself.
No choice. Hope you have no choice. I don't have a YouTube anymore. You have to. I can't do it. I can't host. How am I supposed to host on what channel?
On the positive side, I find buddy reads and read-alongs get me to read the books. Like, you know, I might not normally pick them up, but whereas if someone was like, hey, let's buddy read it together, it encourages me to read it as well.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember what book that, like, I might be buddy reading a book with somebody, and it's a book that I said, like, oh yeah, I would never read. And then the person was just like, hey, I'm reading this. Does anybody want to buddy read it? And I was like,
Hey, I'm in.
Well, in that case, sure.
There's so much I need.
It might be me.
I'm like, sure, add it to my TBR.
If anyone wants to read anything, I have a shelf. Who doesn't have a shelf?
I'm gonna call you Rosie. Buddy reads don't exist for you and me. Wait, you always pick big books. What was it? The Knife of Never Letting Go. That was chunky. The second.
I feel like that's the only thing we end up doing, though, right? Isn't the Knife of Never Letting Go the only thing we got through?
I only got like. Well, it's not like it was bad.
It.
I put it down because there were like readathons going on, and I could not find a prompt for it to fit.
But we actually never managed to make another one of those. It was supposed to be something similar to this, but it ended up just being a Twitter for chatting with friends.
Yeah, it's now. Well, yeah, it started off as a Knife of Never Letting Go buddy read, and now it's just become bookish friends.
I mean,
yeah, that happens so much when you start off with a buddy read. Like that's what one of my Discord things is. It started off as a buddy read, and now it's just we annoy the crap out of each other, message a million times a day.
Yeah, that's how it works. We ended up talking about writing in there, so I love how we ended up making a writing Twitter chat.
Yeah,
we ended up talking about writing.
We're the chat, and then we were at the bottom, just like, should we build this over? And then we need to have another like 100 chats.
I remember coming back to about 66 messages at one point, and I was like, "Whoa!" Like
you were probably like, "Did somebody die or something?"
I was like, "What has just happened?" I'm at work, and I'm like, "Whoa, 66!"
Yeah, we were just like.
Yeah, I had to turn off my notifications for my watch because, like, every few minutes, it's like my wrist is vibrating, and I'm like, "Okay, I have work to do. Turn off."
We did a good job, guys. We did a good job.
Like the first time, like just turning off the notifications. It used to be such a quiet chat. Oh,
And then there was just us, just ding,
And
ding,
then
ding.
we came in.
I was like sitting down at like having coffee with somebody, and then like the phone was just like this, and they were like, "You busy today?" And I'm like, "Apparently." My phone, I never get notifications, and then ever since like joining book chats, my phone, I'm surprised I've only gotten like 4 notifications in this live.
I came in and I chose
it's because we're all here.
Oh no, there's like a whole different group of people that they'll be blowing up my phone later talking about our live show tomorrow. They're probably all still at work.
Yeah, I have no notifications except for book talk on WhatsApp, but they're talking about random books. That's normally how it should go, right? So if anyone wants to buddy read anything, showing that my bookshelf.
Don't start the buddy read thing.
Like no,
don't sign me up for anything else. No, I've already signed up for the Twisted Tales thing.
Hope if you message me for any buddy reads, I will say no.
Well, depends
on
what.
Unless it's already on Hope's TBR, then that's
Unless it's already
okay.
on your TBR, I will not accept any buddy reads.
None of the Twisted Tale books technically are on my TBR. So now I've added how many?
We don't
yeah,
have
like
to,
Sunny, I'll message you about that like Twisted Tale along thing.
I don't even know.
This.
I don't even have them all. I think I am missing Hercules and another one, and my
I will have to borrow them from my
actually called Let
library.
It Go. It's funny. On the internet, this one was called Conceal Don't Feel, but mine is called Let It Go.
Oh.
It's the Anna and Elsa one.
Mm-hmm.
There, and now I literally just said there'll be notifications soon. There's been like 10 messages since I said that.
This one
You shouldn't have said anything.
Anna and Elsa never
I
knew each
shouldn't.
other. Quite interesting.
Cool. So in the book club, I'll post 2 polls. One for like the Shatter Me series. One for if anyone wants to read the sequel to House of Earth and Blood as well, because they are obviously 2 series that we are book clubbing. And then we'll see if anyone wants to do like a buddy read. But yeah, like maybe we'll do like a standalone for
Yes,
April. Yeah, February, March, April. Yeah, maybe we'll do a standalone month to break off.
Yeah.
Cleanse the reading palette.
Yeah,
That would be very nice.
Yeah, it's very nice with
Appreciate it a
me
lot.
and my like 60 started series.
Yeah.
yeah.
And
Yeah,
it doesn't
even though
like
one of my targets is to complete and continue series this year.
and it
I've
shouldn't
done
all be
good. I've
fantasy.
finished one series and then started like I finished 2 series this week.
Ooh.
And then in the last month I've started probably like 5.
Dope.
I know, Sammy just like, and then when she started 5, you just went.
Dope.
Everyone's just went like.
To be fair, a lot of those like 60 series, 60 plus series, I should say, at least half of them have books still coming out.
Yeah, that
So
makes
it's
sense.
not my fault. The other like 30 completed series are.
I have series like this as well, or where I don't actually own the sequel and I don't have the money to get the sequel. Those exist as well. Or me starting the Vampire Academy series and then not actually remembering that I have the next 2 other audiobooks I could actually easily listen to the second, but I never actually pick it up because I completely forget about it. Instead, I pick a 500 page book as an ebook.
Oh.
It's a good book. Not gonna
The
lie.
struggles as a reader.
Right?
And on that note, shall we wrap up the live then? Unless there's anything else anybody wanted to say about Shatter Me or.
We haven't talked about the book in like half an hour.
You never know. You could have the whole time been like, "Oh, I completely forgot to like speak."
I know. It's like if anybody has anything to say, now's your time before another
Yeah,
round
now's
happens.
your chance.
It's a decent
Now.
book and Darkest Minds.
I agree. It was a decent book, and I will continue the series just
Yeah.
purely to find out what
Describe the
happens.
book in 3 words.
Decent.
Decent. Read again. There's just like that uncomfortable silence. Like,
We all just said,
that's where somebody even just went like.
oh my gosh.
All right, well, thank you to everybody who joined, and if you're watching the repeat as well, thank you. I hope you did enjoy Shatter Me, or I hope that we have somehow persuaded you to read it, and maybe you'll be interested in carrying on with the series with us. Who knows? But yeah, thank you. Hope you have a lovely day, and goodbye from all of us for our first live of Late Night Bookworming Book Club. And please pick up House of Earth and Blood by Sarah J. Maas, the first book in Crescent City. We're reading that for February and March. Yeah.
Yay.
Bye, everyone.